Hey everyone, this is Mary Lord with Coldwell Banker Pinnacle Properties in Florence, Alabama with our top 10 things to see in the Shoals. This is episode 5. We're so glad you have joined us because today we have a real special treat. We are at Fame Studios and I have the infamous Bob Wray with us. He has agreed to join us and I'm so excited. He's going to tell us a little bit about Fame Studios, about his time here, and about some of the things that he has been able to do in his career. Thank you for joining us, Bob.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here.
As just a brief introduction of Fame Studios, Rick Hall started it in 1959 over City Drugstore in Florence, Alabama, and then moved to Muscle Shoals in 1961, although it was located on Wilson Dam Road at the time. He did move it to its current location in 1963, where it sits today. Of course, some incredible artists have recorded there. The Tams, What Kind of Fool Do You Think I Am, Wilson Pickett, Mustang Sally, and Hey Jude, Otis Redding. The list goes on and on.
Bob, tell me a little bit about, first of all, the history of Fame. It's obviously an icon here in the Shoals and has been a huge part of your life. So tell me a little bit about how it got started and how you got started here at Fame.
Well, Fame goes back way before I started. In the 60s, there were different rhythm sections, and in 1970 I had been on the road with a guy named Travis Womack, and Travis had already moved here and called and wanted to know if I wanted to audition for sessions. So I came down here, auditioned, and went back to Wisconsin, which is where I was born, and then they called about a week later and said, you got the gig. So I came down and I auditioned with a couple of different artists here, one with Rick, and then I became the house bass player here in July of 1970, 46 years ago.
That's amazing.
And then from there, I finished the Patches album with Clarence Carter. I didn't play on Patches, but I finished the album. And Willie Hightower, and then a group that I had no idea who it was the Osmond Brothers, and they came in I think September, and by Christmas I was on the #1 record in the country, which was One Bad Apple. Then I think 72 would cut Baby Don't Get Hooked on Me with Mac Davis, and we did a lot of R&B. Muscle Shoals was not a country town. We did mainly R&B and then of course pop, and so I worked through the 70s here or in Atlanta, and then moved to Nashville in 80, and I stayed up there for 20-something years, but I still kept my home here. So Fame is like home. I worked here last week. I'll be working here next week. And so this was my studio college.
Yeah.
You know, and I was very fortunate to get in. I didn't have very much experience.
Right.
But it was obvious that I was going to be a studio musician.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I have a lot of memories, and I know my way around here, and it's changed a little, but this room especially is still pretty much the way I remember it.
So you've played a lot of different types of music for a lot of different types of musicians. Lots of very famous musicians. One of the Highwaymen.
Well, I didn't do recording with them as a group.
Right.
But I did their last 2 tours. It was
right.
Johnny Cash and Waylon Christopherson and Willie.
Yes.
Now, prior to that, I'd done the Barron album with Johnny Cash. I did a gospel album with him. I did 7 Spanish Angels with Willie.
Yes.
And I did a duet with Waylon and Hank Jr., I believe it was.
Yes.
So I had worked with all of them in the studio. Chris was the only one I didn't know.
Okay.
And that was the highlight of my touring.
Okay.
I also toured with the Marshall Tucker Band for a year in 84 and 85, and that was a lot of fun. The Highwaymen was
the highlight.
Yeah. That was the...
Did you enjoy touring with the Highwaymen? Was it?
You get on, touring can be rough.
Right.
I mean, I did one 2 years ago that wasn't fun.
Right.
But when you get with a group like the Highwaymen,
right?
I mean, the respect they had, it was all studio musicians in the band. So the respect that they had for us as players was very noticeable and appreciated.
Good.
You weren't just a sideman that you could see the artist on the stage and that was it. I mean, you could hang out with any of them. It was an
Sure.
open invitation to go play golf with Willie every day. And so, and it was, I mean, when you get a group like that, you don't, I mean, they draw people in, and ironically, there was no per diem for that tour. You didn't really need one.
Right. Right.
Because, I mean, the food for the rehearsal after sound check was incredible.
Right.
We did a tour of the States, and then we toured the South Pacific. We were down there for a month. And, I mean, they even had a Thanksgiving Day for us in Australia.
All right, Bob. Last question.
Okay.
Your favorite music?
R&B.
R&B.
R&B music, yes. And I listened to it when I was very young. AM stations out of Arkansas and Nashville. And there's a blues station in Nashville that you could mail order all these singles. And because that's how a lot of people got their records played. And I've just always, I've had a feel for it. So consequently, I've done a lot of R&B in my career. Probably the best known is B.B. King.
Right.
Of course, Ray Charles.
Right.
Willie Hightower. Clarence Carter. And that's all we recorded down here.
Right.
Ray and B.B. were done in Nashville. But, you know, there again, like I said earlier, it was the blend of players that, even though Nashville was even then was predominantly country, people were coming in. I did Joe Cocker in Nashville.
That's right.
And he was a lot of fun.
Really?
I was just listening to the album the other day.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is fun.
It is fun, and I appreciate it very, very much.
Well,